Send you live now.
Right, I believe I'm live. So good evening and welcome to this Cabinet meeting by virtue of the Local Authorities and Police and Crime Panels Regulations 2020. The requirement for public meetings to be made accessible to the public remains, and the link to the virtual meeting is available on the Council's website in the usual live meeting link page. If a connection to a member is lost during the meeting, I will stop the meeting to enable the connection to be restored. If the connection can't be restored within a reasonable time, the meeting will proceed, but the member who is disconnected will not be able to vote on the matter under discussion as they would not have heard all of the facts. Should any aspect of the external link fail, I may call a short adjournment of up to 5 minutes or so to determine whether the connection can quickly be re-established. If the connection is not restored within that time, the meeting will be adjourned and any further business will not proceed until another time and date. So first of all, I need to ask members on the call to notify the meeting of their attendance, starting with Councillor Shah.
Present.
Councillor Jabbar.
Present.
Councillor Mushtaq.
Present.
Councillor Chatterton.
Present.
Councillor Chowan.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Councillor Brownridge.
Present.
Councillor Moores.
Present.
I'm also present, obviously, so we can move into the agenda. I've not received any apologies for absence, but of course everybody else has checked in. Item 2 is urgent business, and I have not been notified of any urgent business. Item 3, declarations of interest. Do any members have an interest to declare in the agenda? I'll pause for a moment to allow them to do so. I'll take silence to mean no, so we can move on to item 4, which is the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 14th of December 2021. I will invite members to dissent if there is any disagreement with what's been recorded. No, so those minutes are agreed. Item 6 is the, apologies. Item 5 is the Revenue Monitor and Capital Investment Programme 2021, month 7, October 2020. So, Councillor Jabbar, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides Cabinet with the update on the Council's revenue budget position and the financial position of the capital programme as at end of month 7, which is the period 31st of October 2020. So if we look at a revenue budget first, the financial position at month 7 was worse than at month 6, with a projected adverse variance of 8.5 million compared to 5.4 million pounds. The change mostly been a result of increased expenditure in adult social care resulting from projected position arising from second national lockdown and the increased demand for care package following hospital discharges. The month 7 position is made up of 6.7 million related to COVID expenditure and loss of income, and then 1.8 million related to business as usual. The trends are very similar to previous reports. The two main areas of adverse variance on business as usual, in other words, the normal activities, are adult social care and children social care, largely due to service demand. This variance position is offset by underspending in other areas across the council arising from management action in place to control expenditure. It is important to note, Chair, that month 8 report has already been issued for the PVFM report committee, which is scheduled for Wednesday. And this is showing a very similar position, an overall adverse variance of 8.3 million. Moving on to capital very quickly then, is the revised capital position at month 7 reflects the outcome of the annual review of the capital programme that was reported last month. It is therefore taken into account the approved carry forwards, the approved new funding, new schemes, the variation and the proposed variation, and rephasing. This gives the projected revised expenditure just over 90 million for this year, a small movement from month 6 position. So the actual expenditure at month 7 was £47.5 million, or 52.7 million, 52.7% of the forecast outturn. Happy to take any question, Chair, from any colleagues.
Thanks, Councillor Jabbar. Thank you for taking us through that report. Of course, it is a routine financial report that we see every month, so I'm not sure if any members have got any questions. No, nobody's raising their hands or indicated in the chat, so I think we can move on to the roll call vote on whether we accept the recommendations as detailed at the front of the report. Councillor Shah.
Agreed.
Councillor Jabbar.
Agreed.
Councillor Mushtaq.
Agreed.
Councillor Chatterton.
Agreed.
Councillor Chowan.
Agreed.
Councillor Roberts.
Agreed.
Councillor Brownridge.
Agreed.
Councillor Moores.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. That report, the recommendations in that report are agreed, so we can move on to item 6, which is the Kickstart scheme, which is in my name. So I will just bring up my notes on this. So the Kickstart scheme is a £2 billion government jobs creation scheme for young people. It opened on the 2nd of September 2020 for employers and gateway providers to make an application online. It's open to young people aged 16 to 24 on universal credit, and it will be referred, and they will be referred to the scheme by their Job Centre Plus work coach. Scheme will initially be open until the end of December 2021. Kickstart Jobs must be new jobs, offering a minimum of 25 hours a week for 6 months, and should not require people to undertake extensive training before they begin the job placement. So the recommendations set out before you are for the council to act as a gateway provider, to register as an employer in our own right, or to do both. And I'll just run through some background on the scheme and then say what the recommended option is. So the Kickstart scheme has been launched in response to COVID-19 and the impact that it's having on unemployment. We've seen youth unemployment in Oldham increase by 1.6%, and that is 3,100 people aged 18 to 24 who are unemployed in Oldham. That's a 15.6% youth unemployment rate, and sadly it's the highest rate across Greater Manchester and higher than the national average. Of the 3,100, nearly 2,900 are claiming universal credit. The Kickstart scheme feeds into our workforce strategy, so it complements it very well, and it's a scheme that we can take advantage of as a local authority in order to deliver on our workforce strategy, and it will allow us to deliver on many of our ambitions in that. A grant application in the Kickstart scheme must be for a minimum of 30 jobs. So if you're an employer that can provide 30 or more jobs, then you can apply directly to the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions, for a grant. But if an employer doesn't have 30 jobs or more, then an application for a grant can be submitted to the Department for Work and Pensions via a gateway provider for a group of employers. And that's what I'm referring to when the council can be one of those gateway providers that can corral 30 jobs together from other organisations and then place a bid on their behalf. As set out under 1.8, gateway providers must have experience of managing partnership arrangements with third parties, and we are confident that we do, and we know that we do. And the Department for Work and Pensions should aim to respond to applications within a month. So there's a huge amount of work that's been done here, not actually by me, because I've delegated responsibility for skills and employment to Councillor Ali, who doesn't sit as a full member of Cabinet, so he's not able to present this report today. But he has driven this work, and supported by the officers, has come up with this paper today, which recommends that we become a gateway employer so that we can support smaller employers to take on Kickstart apprentices, and also register as an employer ourselves, so that we can create opportunities, a minimum of 50 across Team Oldham, for young people in Oldham, and help address the unemployment that's risen due to the coronavirus crisis. Further on in the report is set out the funding and the financing for the scheme and how we will pay for it. and there are further details around other implications later on in the report itself. But the recommendation before you today is that the council registers as a gateway provider and also registers as an employer in its own right. But this, like I said, incredible piece of work by officers and by Councillor Ali in bringing this forward. It will mean that we are taking full advantage of a government scheme to reduce youth unemployment in Oldham as we exit from the coronavirus crisis. And I'd ask that you accept option 3, which is the recommended option. Do members have any questions or comments on this report? No. OK, well, in that case, I'll move to the roll call vote, starting with Councillor Shah.
Agreed.
Councillor Jabbar.
Agreed.
Councillor Mushtaq.
Agreed.
Councillor Chatterton.
Agreed.
Councillor Chowan.
Agreed.
Councillor Roberts.
Agreed.
Councillor Brownridge.
Agreed.
And Councillor Moores.
Agreed.
Wonderful. Thank you for your agreement. My vote's also in favour, so that's a unanimous decision. Item 7 is the Greater Manchester Transport Strategy 2040 and our 5-year delivery plan from 2021 to 2026 and Oldham Local Implementation Plan. Councillor Brownridge.
Thank you. This is a report we've already seen and approved before. The reason it's come back to us is it was originally tied up with GMSF. So when that fell, this report fell as well. So it's been repackaged to remove all references to the GMSF, but the actual thrust of the strategy and implementation is exactly the same as we've already approved. So I hope we can just reaffirm our support for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brownridge. I don't think it warrants much debate given we've agreed to it before and it's just the same as the previous report minus the references to the spatial framework. Does anybody wish to comment on this? No? Very good. So roll call vote. Councillor Shah, do you agree to the recommendation?
Agreed, Chair.
Councillor Jabbar?
Agreed.
Councillor Mushtaq?
Agreed.
Councillor Chatterton?
Agreed.
Councillor Chowan?
Agreed.
Councillor Roberts?
Agreed.
Councillor Brownridge?
Agreed.
And Councillor Moores?
Agreed.
OK, thank you very much for your agreement. My vote's also in favour. So we can move on to the next item, which is the Alexandria Park Eco Centre. If I can just ask members and those watching at home to bear with me for a moment while I bring up the right page in the report. It is quite some way down. OK, so this is a report in my name as the Cabinet Member for Economy and Skills. So prior to the COVID-19 lockdown commencing, the Alexandria Park Eco Centre had been progressed to REBA Stage 3 and subsequently obtained planning approval on the 22nd of May 2020. And there was extensive press coverage of that at the time because it was something that we're incredibly proud of having reached. The outline business case was submitted in June 2020 and following scrutiny of the proposals, the project was unfortunately deemed to be financially unviable for delivery as one complete project, as the long-term revenue implications for the proposals needed some subsidy, which couldn't be justified in the current financial climate. However, despite those challenges, that's not to say that the ambition for embracing the green technologies and sustainable property design in this building has gone with it. And due to the severe dilapidation issues noted with the corporate building and accommodation of staff within Alexandria Park, urgent works have been declared essential to ensure compliance with workplace safety and to provide an early phase of the master plan on an accelerated delivery programme. So as a result of needing to do work on the buildings that our staff are currently in, and as a result of having to look again at this project, we've had to do a piece of work that's come up with 5 different options to provide an indication of what we could do as part of an initial phase on the Alexandria Park Eco Centre, but also ensure that it was future-proofed so that the green technology and other ambitions that we have for this site and for this building can still be delivered on, although at a slightly later date than originally billed because of the COVID-19 crisis and the challenges that has presented financially for the council. So there's a lot of detail in Part B about each of the options, which means that we cannot, unless somebody's going to butt in and correct me, we cannot take a roll call vote on this until we've considered the Part B options, but I do know that some members may wish to speak on the item here and talk about our ambition for green technology in the Alexandria Park Eco Centre. So, Councillor Jabbar, you've indicated that you wish to speak.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. So this is obviously a very important building, not just for green and environmental values, but also for the people who work in the park depot, because as you explained, the current buildings are falling apart literally, and we do need to replace them. But I think why this is a very exciting project is because the way we've designed the new building, it is genuinely going to be an iconic building, environment friendly for Oldham, and it will help us to deliver our ambitious carbon neutrality target. And I think as well, Chair, it's worth making the point that Oldham Council has been leading in this area for a long time now, and it's appropriate that we bring a project like this to Cabinet for approval in the year when United Nations Climate Change Conference is going to take place in Glasgow in November this year, and the United Kingdom takes the presidency of that important conference. So I think it just demonstrates that the Oldham Council is trying to do its bit in relation to the environment, and certainly is trying to make sure the carbon emission from our activities is reduced, and in some cases is zero. So I'm delighted with the progress of this building. I'm delighted to accept the recommendation, albeit the first phase, and I'm very, very hopeful that we will be able to deliver the totality of the project, the original project.
Thanks, Councillor Jabbar. I've also had an indication from Councillor Brownridge.
Yeah, I just want to re-endorse what Councillor Jabbar's just said, because this is a really exciting, ambitious project, and it's very frustrating not be able to do it all at once, which is what we'd really like to do. So I think this is a really sensible compromise, because obviously the conditions officers are working in at the moment are really poor. So to give them a decent place to work and live in is quite the right thing to do, and it doesn't prevent us fulfilling our really exciting long-term objectives further down the line. So again, I fully endorse the recommendation of this report. Thank you.
Thank you both. And I think Councillor Brownridge's observation that this is a good compromise is absolutely correct. I want to be able in a few years' time to look at the Alexandria Park depot and accommodation for our staff and be proud of it as an exemplary centre that employs all the latest green technology that enables us to meet our ambitions around carbon neutrality, but also is something that we can showcase to other places that might want to do something similar, because we know that green technology is going to be a huge growth area, and to have something in our borough that will demonstrate so many different kinds of technology in that space will be something that we can show to others from other places, that they might take the lead from Oldham and take the initiative and employ similar things in their area. Equally, on a really practical basis, I've been to those offices in Alexandria Park. They are not nice. It's not a nice place to work. It's an old building that's propped up by some wooden, well, some wood with a prefab tacked on the side of it. And I bet that the staff in there, no wonder they like to spend so much time outside in the park, even when it's snowing, because it's not a nice place to sit and do your work. And I'm sure I wouldn't like to work in there, and nobody on this call would. So we need to do the right thing by them too. But option 3 is the recommended option, which is the one as described around progressing an early phase of the master plan for the Eco Centre, including green technology power solutions within the new office building. So the vote is on option 3 when we've considered part B. I won't do the roll call now because we can't do it at this point in the meeting. Instead, I will move on to item 9, which is the scrutiny referral of the council motion, which was the ban on fast food and energy drink advertising. This is for me to introduce as the chair. So the Health Scrutiny Committee, at a meeting held on the 1st of September 2020, referred a council motion, ban on fast food and energy drink advertising, to this cabinet, recommending that the council do all that is possible to discourage the consumption of fast food and energy drinks as a local authority with a statutory responsibility for public health, and that this matter be progressed on a Greater Manchester-wide basis, be raised with the leaders of the other Greater Manchester authorities, and that the Mayor of Greater Manchester be requested to run a campaign on these issues in conjunction with the Greater Manchester local authorities, and further asking the Cabinet to submit a progress report on actions taken to the Health Scrutiny Committee. So we've got a number of actions that have been requested of us there, none of which seem unreasonable to me. I think that we should certainly look to extend this across Greater Manchester and get the buy-in of the Greater Manchester Mayor, because we'll have more of an effect if we do it on a city region-wide basis. And I think it's entirely appropriate that we report back on the work that we've done to progress what's been asked of us. I see that Councillor Chauhan wishes to comment on this item, because of course it does fall in his area. Councillor Chauhan, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Councillor Fielding. It's absolutely right that we put health and welfare of our residents in the middle of everything we do. And you're also absolutely right, just doing in isolation in Oldham is not going to make a huge difference, because we don't live in a bubble. It needs to be done on a bigger level, on Greater Manchester level. I'm sure you will use all your influence to lobby and also speak in Health Board, and I will do my best as a Cabinet Member for Health and Social Care to lobby and say we have a comprehensive strategy on Greater Manchester level to deal with this problem. But thank you very much to the Scrutiny Committee to highlight this important issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chauhan. And I think it demonstrates that, you know, it's right that we have a Health Scrutiny Committee, and I know that it's an additional committee that was set up a couple of years ago. But given that health is such a huge area and will continue to be, even despite the COVID-19 pandemic, of course it's, you know, in vogue at the moment, but it will continue to be a hugely important area of the council's work that we need to focus on. So having adequate scrutiny of that is appropriate, and they've come up with some good recommendations there. We need to take a roll call vote on whether we agree to the recommendations set out. So beginning with Councillor Shah.
Agreed, Chair.
Councillor Jabbar.
Agreed.
Councillor Mushtaq.
Agreed.
Councillor Chatterton.
Agreed.
Councillor Chauhan.
Agreed.
Councillor Roberts.
Agreed.
Councillor Brownridge.
Agreed.
And Councillor Moores.
Agreed.
Fab. Right, well, thank you everybody. Those are all the items that we can deal with in public. So item 10, I need somebody to move and somebody to second the exclusion of the press and public.
Move, Chair.
Move.
And if there is no dissent, when I pause in a moment, I'll take that to be agreed. OK, that's agreed. We must turn off the live link now. Thanks to those watching at home. See you later.